a big sort of conceit in the book, which is maybe sort of evident from the cover, is high jump, the sport of high jump, which I did kind of obsessively in secondary school from like the ages of 12 to 18. Um, I I think it's a very technical sort of sport, um, but I'd say one of the most technical in track and field. But it has this sort of weird thing where I think most jumpers who are sort of obsessively high jumping relate to it less as this sort of series of technical movements and this more like this kind of somatic knowledge, this sort of like mini kind of flight and transcendence. I don't know. I think I also, when I did high jump, was lucky enough that my coaches sort of saw that I kind of had a knack for it, that I really liked it, and they sort of let me do my thing, which meant that when I became like a good high jumper and was sort of doing it more and more, I was doing it, I think, based on my own body's vocabulary. I don't know. It's also, I think, quite a lot like poetry in that you have the technical aspect, but then you have each person's sort of creative expression within it. Like if you watch a competition, if you watched the Olympics this year, each jumper kind of has their own way of going over the bar, their own way of running. If you look at their takeoffs, they're all sort of slightly different. And I think that translates really well into poetry for me. I had to stop doing high jump after secondary school because I ended up going to a college where I was jumping like just like 2 inches below the height that they wanted me to jump to walk on. So I lost it, and it was this big part of me that I felt like I lost. And there were a couple of years where I think I just didn't have that form of creative expression. And then I found writing and specifically made my way to poetry. And I think in this collection, I am sort of thinking in both those modes, stepping back into what the high jump was to me when I was growing up. I think another sort of big overarching theme within the book is this idea of like self-mythology. I think that the way we sort of build a self when we're growing up, when we're kind of trying to conceptualize ourselves and our relationship to the people around us and the world around us, is done by looking at the cultural myths like around us that are available to us. And in the writing of the book, I think I was interested in what that self-mythology, that construction looks like when you don't see yourself very well represented in a lot of those myths, or you see yourself represented in maybe fragments of those myths, and the self you put together has to be this prismatic thing, which I do think also lends well to poetry and to a poetry collection. It was a huge shock, I think, when I found out. Like I got the email, and then it was on like a Friday, and then the whole weekend after, like I wasn't able to sleep. I was just, I think, moving through every space. Like I went to the grocery store and I was just like completely out of it. But yeah, it's huge. It means so much. I think writing is a profession that is very, I think it's difficult to stay in. It's difficult to sort of justify to people in your life why you're doing it. And I think the biggest thing that the shortlisting means to me is that it's a little bit more security that like I'm going to be able to keep doing this. It's just my first collection, but it feels like now I'll be able to write more poetry. I'll write another book. And I think this shortlisting really helps make that feel possible, that I can kind of make a career in this field that I really love.